Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to a packed 55 minutes on Business Morning. Great conversations await you here today, as usual. I'm Ini John Mekwa. First of all, let's start with what's going on in the oil space. Prices inch lower today as supply concerns eased as countries in European Union remain split on imposing an oil embargo on Russia, while the United States and allies consider releasing more oil from storage to cool markets. Brent crude futures fell 46 cents to $118.57 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 47 cents to $111.87 a barrel, and it dropped before that 2.3% in the previous session. OPEC Plus sources say that officials believe a possible European Union ban on oil from its partner Russia would hurt consumers, that the group has conveyed its concerns to Brussels, while the United States and Britain are targeting Russian oil. Such action poses a challenge for the EU, which relies on Russia for 40% of its gas. Punitive measures against Russia were imposed since its invasion of Ukraine last month, which Moscow calls a special operation. From the oil space now, we come to Nigeria, which still remains an investment hub for willing investors in the country. And one of the latest investors is Mr. Enrique Banuelos, the chairman of Bedinat Group, real estate company based in Spain. He's been in Nigeria for a couple of days now, and he sees opportunity in the real estate sector in the country. Mr. Enrique was a guest of the chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, at Channels Global Headquarters in Lagos, where he tells Channels television business correspondent Ladi Williams that investing in Nigeria is an opportunity he's anxious to explore.
In this, my first visit of Nigeria, I have meetings in the last days in Abuja with the Vice President, okay, in Nigeria, and together with the governor, the state of Lagos. The idea is proposed at the government of Nigeria and the state of Lagos, one international hub or district for to do, okay, one activity, the addition value, okay, in the activity of international. The hub is more or less the 50 to 100 hectares. The construction, my group, one international hospital and a school, facility of business, hotels, resorts, facilities, entertainment, and different, okay, things for create one hub for interaction better Nigeria with America, with Europe, with Asia, with the rest of the world. Attraction investment and attraction talent, okay? This is the first, okay, challenge that my group now in Nigeria. I like the model, the Lagos and Abuja. It's very similar another part of the countries, similar US with New York, Washington. This model, I think, is working very well. And the surprise, the activity, okay, of Lagos is, in my opinion, one of the city more energetic or Africa in this moment, with opportunities and the option, okay, for to do and have very, very interesting. I travel all the time. I have activities in, I think, in all the continents, in the sector, the real estate, the hub international, the companies, the banks, pharmaceutical, different sector. And today, the world changing very fast. And then I think in the future is the younger people. And in this case, Nigeria is this great, okay, young people, young country, okay? And absolutely, okay, the new technologies and the entertainment, I think in this one sector, have the chain, the key, okay, for the future.
Yeah, talking about investing in the non-oil sector. That's what the NEPC has done recently when it launched the trade house in Cairo, Egypt. The project seeks to provide a central location where made in Nigeria goods can be shipped, displayed, and distributed within an identified location. The executive director of Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Dr. Ezra Yakusak, led the team there, now joins us from our Abuja studio to tell us some of the things that happened there and what we should expect now that the trade house has been launched. Good morning, Dr. Yakusak. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how was the trip to Cairo and back?
Our trip was great. We had a wonderful time in Cairo. We enjoyed the Egyptian hospitality.
Great. So now that the trade house has been launched, what's going to be different? What should we expect?
Okay, I think I need to also emphasize on the need for that trade house in Egypt. Section 4.2J of the NAPC Act empower us to set up trade promotion facilities in Nigeria and outside this country. And that prompted us to set up that, and that includes commercial exhibition centers and commercial centers. So in line with this provision, and based on the fact that we saw the trends for the past 10 years, the non-oil export trend has been such in a way that, I mean, it's traditionally to the West. You won't believe it, as at last year, the export destination of our major products, the top 10 was, the first is Brazil, China, Netherlands, Belgium, Japan, Vietnam, Germany, and of course, United Kingdom. Now, out of this, you realize that there is no African country on the top 10 list. And that's not right. We felt we need to change the trajectory. We need to change things. And that's why we came up with the idea of the export trade house, mainly in Africa. And like you said, the first one was launched in Egypt. The idea is to send out or to ship Nigerian goods out there where they will be readily available for, for export in Egypt. And of course, we wanted to look at Egypt as a launching pad for, to reach the Northern African area, Northern African region. So that's why we launched that program there. But I also need to tell you that the trading pattern between Nigeria and Egypt is not, it's skewed in favor of Egypt. You won't believe it that as at last year, the export to Egypt from Nigeria was $1.8 million, while the import from Egypt to Nigeria was $182 million. You can see this disparity. So there is need for us, we feel the need to change things and also leverage on the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is coming up, so that Nigerian products will be out there, not only in Egypt, but in other African countries.
Desire that Nigerian products should be out there, but there are steps that we need to take as a country if we really want to meet up. But what commodities will be in focus with this trade house and this window that has been opened?
Okay, thank you very much. The commodity that we're looking at are the commodities that have what we call competitive advantage out there. The first is like sesame seed. Sesame seed is our major exportable product to Egypt. We have sesame seed, we have ginger, we have saffron, we have cocoa powder and cocoa paste. These are some of the commodities we are looking at to be exported over there in Egypt. And of course, that does not limit those commodities. There are other commodities that we can export. It depends on the demand there. It's a demand and supply thing. It depends on the demand over there in Egypt.
We've heard before now of issues around storage, which affects the quality of the crops, that we export. What are you doing around that? It's not the first time. I remember when we tried to do the yam exports. We remember the bottleneck and the trouble that we went into. So what are you doing in this area so we don't get crops or products that are exported and then they are being sent back or rejected by the customers?
That's the beauty of this project, because we had that in mind. We look at all the issues, and we felt there is need to curb that. And of course, I need to inform you that the Export Trade House is a PPP arrangement, a public-private partnership arrangement between us and JM Goma International and Agrivedi. Agrivedi is actually Agrivedi Limited is actually a company based in Egypt. They are partners with JM Goma, a Nigerian company. So the scenario is that once before these goods are exported, JM Goma will look at the goods, look at the exportable standards of the good, and make sure that these goods are of particular standards before being shipped to Egypt, to his partner in Egypt, in Sadat Industrial City, Egypt. So that way, the issue of the products, the issue of products being bad or anything will be curbed completely. So these are some of the measures we are taking to ensure that our products are not rejected out there in Egypt. And you see, I need to also say that once this product reach Egypt, you don't need to have a buyer in Egypt, by the way. With the arrangement we're having, you don't need to have a non-buyer in Egypt. Once the product reach Egypt, the Egyptian company will invite Egyptian buyers there. They will go inspect the goods, look at the goods, and once the goods are of the standard they want, they will just pick up the goods and, of course, repatriate the money back to Nigeria. And, of course, with this project, you will agree with me that it will enhance our foreign exchange inflow.
I'm looking forward to that, Dr. Yakusak. Really looking forward to that, because Forex has been a major challenge for a lot of businesses and business operators in Nigeria. Now, let's look at the farmers. You talked about ginger, sesame seed, and all that. Where do the farmers come in? How do you get them into the picture here?
Okay, what we intend to do is that we're going to actually invite the Egyptian company to Nigeria. He's going to talk directly to the producers and the farmers of these commodities. He's going to talk to them, and so that they see him firsthand and ask any question they want to ask in respect of the project and what exactly they need to do. On our part in NEPC, we are enhancing the capacity of farmers and other SMEs because, of course, they lack capacity. For example, we're organizing trainings on good agricultural practices for farmers to increase their yield and scale up their capacity for export. That's what we are doing. So very recent, we launched a program, you need to know, we launched a program called Go Global, Go Certification. And the idea behind that project is to ensure that we assist farmers and other SMEs to get certification out there. Because what we realize is that once our goods reach out there, I mean, they are rejected. And because of the lack of appropriate or necessary certification that are required internationally, like, of course, like HACCP, like Fair Trade, Halal, and other certification programs. So what we are doing is that we are getting in touch with our farmers and getting in touch with various certification bodies who will come and certify our products. And NEPC has been paying. Last year, we certified about 36 SMEs, and very soon we are going on air to invite other SMEs that require such facility so that we assist and intervene in that area and give them the necessary support.
Yeah, it's good you have that plan, and it's also good you earlier mentioned that you're working with the farmers to try to help them expand production and all that, because sometimes when we talk about the farmers, the middlemen seem to be the ones who, you know, take advantage of the system. So I'm asking this to know how you are going to ensure that, because of the issue of logistics, transportation from the rural area where some of these farmers are, moving them to the city, that we don't get the middlemen taking the profit and leaving the farmer to just, you know, with just peanuts.
Okay, in terms of middlemen, you realize that just recently the federal government banned foreigners from going to our villages and picking up those products for export, and which was a very good, very good.
Arguably, some people are arguing against that, Dr. Yakusak. Some people are arguing against that, Dr. Yakusak, you know, that bringing the middlemen officially into the picture will do more harm. Some farmers have spoken against that, but do go ahead.
Okay, what we're saying is that, you see, we need to also empower our farmers out there. We need to empower them. And like I said, we're having direct interface with them. And you see, the truth about it is that all over the world, you may not completely eliminate middlemen. That's the truth about it. You just curtail them and ensure that the farmers have value for their money. But what we are doing in NEPC is, like I said earlier, is to interface with the farmers. Even the gentleman or the farm from Egypt, once they come, we are not dealing with middlemen. We know the farmers. We have a direct contact with them. We are going to invite them. He speaks to them directly, and we see how we are going to get their products out there to Egypt.
All right, so the war in Ukraine is changing a lot of narrative in the world. Egypt is also being hard hit. You know, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, they had to reach out to IMF for loan and assistance. And then, you know, they have a lot of imports from Russia, so their bread is being hugely subsidized. Does this change the picture? Because if they are reaching out to IMF and they're trying to manage their economy, and then we are coming at a time like this, have you factored that into the plan?
It doesn't change it doesn't change the picture. Rather, it enhances our chances of export because of the war in Ukraine, a lot of countries that used to import from Ukraine or Russia are not having such imports. So there's need for us to fill the gap out there, to fill the gap that the war is causing right now. And not only in Egypt. I had a phone call from Germany. Somebody called me from Germany to say that a lot of Nigerian products that were there, that there are no products. All the stores are almost empty because of the war, because of the fact that they were getting these products from like wheat from either Ukraine or Russia, and that there is need for us to leverage on that and see how we can get our products out there. So what we intend to do is we are going to sit down and form a think tank to see how Nigeria or our exporters can reach out there and identify those countries that need our products or that have been hit by the consequences of the Ukraine-Russia war, and so that we can leverage on that and send our products out there.
All right, is the NEPC working on adding value to some of these products instead of, you know, sending raw materials, instead of just the seed? You know, is the NEPC working along that line?
NEPC has always been working to add value because we know the essence of adding value to any product. Of course, you will agree with me that once you add value, you generate employment, you create more industries or establish more industries, and of course, poverty is reduced or eradicated by adding value. And of course, you also know that by the time you send raw commodities out there, you are actually building another economy. Another person's economy. But you see, we have to face reality. Adding value comes with so many things. One of it is infrastructure, and one of it is power. If you don't have the power to run the machines, you have a problem with adding value. And so that's why we sometimes sympathize with our exporters, and we don't have much that to say. See, while we encourage adding value, but until things are done well, or we get all the correct indices or the infrastructure, you can go ahead and export what we have. We have a program called Export Expansion Grant Scheme. I mean, it's an EEG scheme, an incentive scheme that is given to exporters. In that scheme, we give a percentage of people that have exported and repatriated back their proceeds back to Nigeria. And so, in giving the percentage, the more you add value, the more percentage you get in that EEG scheme. So the idea is to discourage export of raw commodities and encourage value addition. But like I said, sometimes if you listen to the stories of these exporters, they are handicapped. So, but NEPC, our focus is to ensure that value is added. And of course, you can see the RT, the raise to 2000 Forex program by the CBN. Value addition was the main key thing in that policy, and which NEPC totally support.
Dr. Ezra Yakusak, the Executive Director, Nigeria Export Promotion Council. We do hope that you will help the handicap that the manufacturer and the exporters are facing, because it's for the good of the economy. Thank you so much, and welcome back from Cairo. We hope to see more activities at the Trade House.
Thank you very much.
In Cairo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So one of the things that Dr. Yakusak actually talked about was infrastructure, and electricity is top on that list. And that's what we'll be looking at here on Business Morning after the break. Just stay with us. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the NERC, will conduct a minor tariff review every 6 months to reflect the economic situation, especially disparity between Naira and other major currencies, specifically the dollar. This is no news now. Well, it's not a new guideline of the industry, but it has raised a lot of eyebrows at this time because of the drop in electricity supply. We have Mr. Shino Sipasi, now partner at Alex, specializing on energy and finance, joining us to share his thoughts on that. Good morning, Mr. Sipasi. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning, Nini. Thank you for inviting me.
Good to have you. So this minor review is actually what is supposed to be done, you know, every 6 months, at least minor. But why is it a big deal now? Why are we talking about it this time around?
So according to the regulation, it is necessary to have that minor review twice in a year. That is what is expected to happen. And the reason for it is that it is the means through which the regulator will ensure that the pricing for electricity is done in such a way that reflect as much as possible the current realities. Now, as to your question, why the review this time around is generating so much comments. That is due to a combination of reasons. The first is that people, without being forewarned, noticed that there has been slight increase in the amount they pay per kilowatt hour of electricity. So when you make your payment and then you check your receipt, you realize that the amount of power you can buy, say with 3,000 naira, the amount you bought in January, you see that there's a slight difference when you look at the amount of kilowatt hour that same 3,000 naira purchased for you, say in March. So that's the reason. So people notice that, but not just that. Another reason why the review is causing a lot of comment is because of the comment by the Minister of Finance while addressing the IMF that electricity subsidy has been completely removed. Now, you will agree with me that subsidy is a very sensitive issue in Nigeria. And people, just by hearing that one subsidy has been removed, that is bound to generate conversation and discussion. So the fact that electricity subsidy has been removed is one of the reasons why this review is attracting so much attention. There's also around that time when the announcement was happening, we had grid collapse and the nation was plunged into almost total darkness for a couple of days. And unfortunately, when that was happening, at the same time, we had fuel scarcity. There was long queues at the pump, and in many filling stations, petrol was being sold for higher than the regulated price. The cost of diesel was hitting the roof, and also the cost of gas, which usually tracks the cost of diesel, also went higher. So it's like everything went high. Aviation price went high. People who have to rely on their generator to generate electricity realize that suddenly they have to pay so much, for electricity. And then on top of this, there was price review, no matter how slight the increase was. So this is the reason for all the sensitivities around this current ordinarily normal price review that the regulator is expected to do.
So before we go deeper into the conversation, is electricity supply back to normal, at least in your area, after the collapse of the grid? Is it back in your area?
Well, in my area, no. And again, it will also depend on what we mean by normal. So when we talk about normal
being before the collapse, normal in this case, I know we're not talking about 24 hours, normal being before the collapse. That's what I mean by normal.
Well, it is not exactly back, and the reason is not. The reason for the almost total blackout that we suffered it's not just because of grid collapse. There were a number of things that happened around the same time. Some power plants were undergoing scheduled maintenance. The fact that our hydro plants were not operating at their highest capacity because this is the dry season, and there's the need to manage, to do water management. So they rationalize how they generate power. And there's also the issue. There's also the issue of the collapse. There's also the issue of vandalization of gas pipelines. Now, those things are not things that are going to be corrected immediately just because the grid is back. The grid is back will not affect gas pipelines that is being vandalized, or the inability of gas suppliers to supply gas to the different power plants. Because as at that time, almost about 14 power plants were down out of 26. Out of 24 gas-fired power plants, about 14 of them were down because they had what they call gas constraints. Now, that is not going to be solved at the snap of the finger. I am aware that the Ministry of Power had actually coordinated all the stakeholders, and all of them are talking, and they are looking at a way to actually reasonably restore gas supply. And maybe when that is done and we get back to our usual 5,000 megawatts supply to the grid, we can have a situation where everybody can begin to feel the impact of what we call regular electricity supply in Nigeria. But it is not back to normal, and the reason is not just because of grid collapse, it is also because of myriad of all those other issues that I have mentioned.
All right, so when we backtrack a bit to the minister, we're getting to know on the media that the electricity subsidy has been removed, and all that. Is there a chance that consumers' rights have been infringed upon in any way?
No. No. There are so many factors that go into electricity pricing. And when there are movements in those factors, it could lead to higher prices and it could lead to lower prices. The electricity subsidy that the government used to do are basically an intervention, a temporary intervention step. And when government and the commercial people and the regulators look at the matrices and they think at this point it is not necessary for that or for such intervention to continue, it will simply drop off. It will simply drop off, especially, and they can do that, especially when they know that the impact in electricity tariff will be almost minimal. And really, in this case, the impact that consumers pay in electricity tariff is minimal. In fact, I've seen a lot of consumer groups clamoring for regular electricity because they would rather have this electricity with increased tariff rather than go and be purchasing diesel today at 600, tomorrow at 700. So they would rather pay that electricity tariff anyway.
Well, Mr. Sukas, what
not an infringement of consumer rights in any way.
All right, and then another thing around consumers is how, we'd like to know if Nigeria is still exporting electricity, in the middle of this. That is one thing that also consumers are talking about. But I'm afraid we have to let you go now. I guess that's a conversation for another day. Mr. Shina Sukasi.
All right. Thank you.
His partner at ALEX, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We'll certainly have you back on the show in a short while to follow up on that conversation. We'll take a break now here on Business Morning. We have the markets, we have London coming up after the break. Do stay with us. Back, you're still watching Business Morning here on Channels Television. We'll do an open call to the market now. Will? Good morning.
Now, negative sentiments have popped up again in the equities markets, as profit-taking activities.
That was a very short excitement we had.
It was very short, 0.02. I was saying, we should do a whoop yesterday, and it actually, it turned out to be
I don't think we even had up to a whoop. I think it was just a whoop.
Oh. That is not. So investors are still taking profit. We saw profit taking in GT we saw profit taking in Zenith Bank, Flour Mills, MTN Nigeria. This led the all-share index to close 0.4% lower yesterday. And now we are below the 47,000 level, the 47,000 level. So we are now at 46,960.29 points. Now, the total volume of trades also, you know, it was a sea of red yesterday, declined by 19.7%. That's for the volume to 214.7 billion units, valued at 2.6 billion naira, and exchanged in 4,003 deals. Now, Fidelity Bank was the most traded stock by volume. I remember yesterday the analyst spoke about Fidelity Bank having strong fundamentals and having a good direction for the market. So we saw volume in that stock, 48.26 million units, traded yesterday, while GTCO was the most traded stock by value at 606.92 million naira. Now, performance across the sectors, we saw insurance and oil and gas sector recorded gains yesterday. The oil and gas counter was boosted by O&O. The consumer goods counter, UAC, and was, you know, it was in the negative yesterday. Industrial goods down. Banking, we saw some tier 1 banking stocks closing in the red yesterday. Now, industrial closed flat, that's negative there. So market breadth, however, the market breadth, when you measure it by the market breadth, the market sentiment was positive because we had 16 gainers against 14 losers in the market. Now, moving on to the NASD market, we saw that the NASD market has gone back to negative territory. It lost 0.09%, the exact same percentage it gained in Wednesday's trading session. Now, we have the index at 710.15 points, while the market cap is 586.42 billion naira. It has fallen below the 600 billion naira mark there. So we're moving straight to the fixing. We saw a drop also in the volume of trade transacted yesterday, and value was at 4.15 million naira, executed in 6 deals. Move on to the fixed income market, where we saw some, you know, mixed sentiments going there. Bearish sentiments have moved back to the fixed income space. Yields are going up, and then we saw also similar trading in the NTB market for the treasury bills as well. 5 billion naira traded yesterday, and there was an OMO auction that was supposed to take place yesterday, but that didn't happen. And probably we'll have an analyst to talk about that. That's what I was talking about, the OMO auction. We had maturities coming this week, but liquidity is a bit thin in the markets as we speak at the moment. Now, the CBN special bills, we have 5 billion naira traded in that. I don't know if we have Ifoma or Yejekwe fixed income deal at UBA to talk about that. Ifoma, are you there? So we don't have that now. So we're just going to say that the market is really bearish at the moment, especially for the fixed income market. Things are not moving well. Good for news for investors, but not positive news for probably the borrowers, the people who borrowed the money and try to pay back the loans. So we're just seeing we're just hoping that the market makes a flip today. Today, investors are still trading cautiously, but we're hoping to see a flip in the market based on what is happening. MPC just took place. Inflation rate is high. People are probably watching. Pre-election jitters are still there. People are still probably wondering where they're going to put their money, or should they invest their money, or should they just take it out and keep it, maybe use it for some other trade. Non-oil exports is really, is trending right now. So we'll just see where the investors really put their market. But we have Ifoma to tell us what really happened yesterday. Ifoma, good morning. Okay, I think we lost Ifoma there. So, Ini, we're just coming back to you to tell us that this is just what's going on in the market.
Well, the world is not in a normal place at this time. Interest rates are high. I mean, that's in response to inflation. In fact, in Egypt, they had to devalue their currency, so a lot of moves there. So I think investors are just watching to see where would I have a safe haven or hedge, to keep my investment, or let me just hold on a bit and see what happens
I think that's what investors
Pretty uncertain
are doing.
Times in the world at this time.
Very, very uncertain.
Pretty uncertain. Well, thank you so much, Will. Well, we'll just go over to London now. Hi, Juliana. Good morning. It's the day after the NATO meeting on ways to further pressure Russia to stop its invasion into Ukraine. What's the outcome from the perspective of the UK?
Any, I think it's fair to say that US President Joe Biden's presence in Europe this week has certainly put out a message of strengthening transatlantic relations. We know that they really deteriorated during the tenure of President Donald Trump, and currently now there is a press conference that's being held by President Joe Biden and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. But of course, there are tensions between nations. I know there was a 3-hour meeting between 30 governments and heads of state. And there were some suggestions that perhaps Joe Biden's change of tone, in the sense that he said yesterday that NATO would intervene if chemical weapons are used. And according to some reports, the British government were a little bit rattled by that statement, because it does go against what has been said from the beginning. I think that the president very quickly refused to send any troops, although there is a 40,000 strong NATO troop on the Eastern Front. They said they wouldn't be sending any soldiers on the ground, but that does seem to have changed from what President Biden said yesterday, much to the angst of other members. And then there is that long-standing tension between Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron, the French president, and that's because Boris Johnson wants to send more tanks and wants to help President Volodymyr Zelensky with his asking for more military equipment. France, they don't want to do that. They don't want to cross the red line. So, yes, NATO have come together. They've put out a very strong front. But, of course, so much has happened to each individual nation during the pandemic. Some are recovering. Some it's taken longer than others. Everybody has a very different relationship with Russia. So it does appear that diplomatic efforts are going forward, but just how they are going to come forward as a bloc, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. And I guess that press conference you talked about is one of those areas where we would see that. And then following, of course, the Russian invasion, even before then, we had supply chain disruption. And now the UK is talking about a rise by tenfold of electric car charge points. And I'm thinking, in the midst of the constraints, what's the plan or the strategy to hit that?
Well, the strategy is to spend more money, and we know that electric vehicle use is increasing slowly, but ever surely it is increasing here in the UK. The government have set out a plan that by 2030 there will be a ban on any new car sales of diesel or petrol. We are going to be fully transitioning to electric vehicle cars because, of course, this is all part of the climate change emergency preparations. And to do that, you need to be able to charge the vehicles. Lots of local authorities up and down the country have complained that they're just not enough and they cannot afford to do them. I believe at the moment we've got about 30,000. So the government have announced a £500 million investment to create 300,000 within the next 10 years. And I think this has been widely welcomed. We know that UK petrol and diesel prices have been surging rapidly during the invasion of the war. And there are individuals that are starting to turn their attention towards the electric vehicle market. You can charge your electric vehicle outside of your house or on a desired street if the government start investing in the infrastructure. And that's what they've announced today. So I think this news has been broadly welcomed.
All right. Thanks so much, Julia. Now we'll talk to you again at 1:30.
Thank you.
Let's move to the crypto space now. Normally, it's a Red Friday, but I'm thinking, unlike the equities and the fixed income market, we can smile a bit here.
Exactly. Global market, Bitcoin, we've seen sell-offs happen mostly on Friday, but this morning is looking quite good. We're seeing the fear greed index in the crypto market that's checking the sentiment. We're seeing it's 47 points.
That's fast. Yesterday at this time it was 40.
Exactly. So now we're nearing the neutral zone.
So yesterday at this time, I remember that the fear grade was at 40, and just within 24 hours, it's gone to 47. And like Ladi would always say, as Ladi would always say, once it gets to 50, that means, I mean, for investors who are not greedy, it's time to sell. But for those who are greedy, that's greed. You stay in the market and see if it's going to move even faster than that. I wonder what category Ladi falls into. But we see that at least one of the markets is doing a little bit well. Bitcoin has gone from less than 14, since last week, to about 42, I think it is, at this time. So it's a market that, but we don't know what the weekend will hold, so let's not be too expectant or get too excited, because we do not know what can happen if over the weekend, Ladi. I think the weekend is one of those periods that most of the time you can't predict. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
All right, I think Ladi is having some technical issues there, and unfortunately, I don't have the figures for the crypto markets. So I have to say thank you so much for being a part of Business Morning for this week. Do remember that Channels Television does not advertise cryptocurrency. It's not a platform. We just report the market. So if you want, you have to find a trustworthy consultant, but certainly not Channels Television. That's it on the program for this week. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll do it again next week. Have a great weekend. I'm Ini John McFarlane.